Hi, and welcome back to India on 99.9 for the home of cricket audio. I'm Nikesh Rugani, commentator, broadcaster, and journalist based in the UK. And my co host, Sarah Waris of Wisden. Sarah, how are you feeling after yesterday?
My predictions have gone horribly wrong. So, yeah, not making any more predictions in the future.
Yeah, let's not do that. So you predicted they'll meet three times, India, Pakistan, in the Asia Cup. India will win
Yeah,
all three of those games. So that's not come
yeah.
true. And one will be close, two will be easy. So we were expecting an easy win yesterday, weren't we? But it was a
Easy
thrilling
win for
game.
Pakistan. Easy win for
It wasn't
Pakistan.
easy. Come on, it wasn't anything but. And it's from a neutral perspective, which, all right, we're not coming from a neutral perspective. You can probably see the badge if you're watching on YouTube. Win, lose or draw, got to stick with the guys. Look, it was a close game, and we haven't been used to seeing much India-Pakistan cricket at all in the last decade or even a bit longer than that. But certainly no real close games between the two sides. It's always pretty
Yeah.
one-sided. Normally, it's India who come out on top. The odd Pakistan victory over the years as well. But it goes to show, look, two competitive games, two strong sides, both missing the spearhead of their bowling attack, but both providing good entertainment here as well. I mean, the anticipation, despite the fact they only played last week, the anticipation is still there. I mean, even here in the UK, I was at my cousin's wedding on Saturday, the day before, and we stayed over on Friday night. It was down in London, so I live in Leicester, so we were staying Friday night, Saturday night. Wedding was all day Saturday, so wedding and reception, and all anyone wanted to talk about was India, Pakistan, what's going to happen, and the buzz was there, the excitement was there, and it just always captures the imagination of even the casual cricket fan. Really, there were people coming up to me, extended family members who don't really like cricket that much, but when it's India Pakistan, they'll tune in, and that can be good on one hand for spreading the game to more people, but on the other hand, it can be quite annoying when you're talking
Yeah.
cricket with people who don't know about cricket, and we'll get onto that in just a moment. Um, but just a reminder before we do, if you're watching us on YouTube, remember you can get us via your usual podcast provider as well, and please download the 99.94 app for all the best coverage from our network there, including other podcasts and live commentary, which we'll be doing more of at some point in the near future as well. So let's get down to it. Look, they're back in Dubai. India won the first match, not convincingly, I would say, but Pakistan posted a well below par total in that one, and India looked for a long period like they're going to make it look quite easy, and then it got quite tight towards the end, and Hardik hit the six. They come in yesterday, they lose the toss, Rohit Sharma, and he would have bowled first as well. But they're sent in and they decide to play with the same intent that they've been talking about and that we've seen in recent times, particularly against England in that short series. Let's start with that. The intent was really good from Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul, it has to be said as well. Huge respect
Yeah.
to him for the way he came out and played. I mean, they were going at tens early on, more than tens, and it was brilliant to see, and it was all set up, wasn't it? It was great to see that intent early on.
Yeah, and again, it brings up the point if KL Rahul can bat this way, why isn't he doing it consistently? In T20Is, yes, he is, but even in the IPL, we would love to see him, go after the attack right from the start. So, why isn't he doing it consistently? Um, Also, I think one more point is being overlooked off late is Rohit Sharma. We've spoken a lot about how he's very going after the bowling from the very start, but he's not able to convert those starts into big scores. Like he's got just 150 after the T20 World Cup last year, which you expect more from the top three. Kohli wasn't in form for the longest time. KL Rahul didn't play a T20I this year. Rohit Sharma is there, so you expect more consistency from him. He's going at a very good strike rate, but that has to start getting converted into big scores also. And I think people are being harsh on Rahul and Kohli and all the other batters, but they are kind of ignoring Rohit Sharma's inability to get those big runs also, I think.
Yeah, I think part of the reason is obviously he's got the intent and he's not maybe converting those into big scores,
Yeah,
but setting the platform maybe, plus the fact that he's captain. So when it comes to
yeah,
talking about players who should be dropped from the side, he doesn't come up because we just assume that he's the skipper, he has to play, he's going to play,
yeah.
and that's the end of it. So yeah, no, good point you make. He could do with converting one or the two of those
Especially in
into
big
bigger
games,
scores.
like, yeah, especially in big games where anyway the people are injured, they're not around. So, it's time that he bats with the same intent but gets a little more runs also.
Absolutely, but it was good to see KL Rahul as well, and let's just speak about him in a little bit more detail because we've talked about his failures at being able to take on that particular role at the top of the order and just go out hard. He did it, and look, he got out playing in that manner as well. So fair enough. I think I put out a
Yeah.
tweet just before he played that shot to say, look, it's great to see the intent from KL Rahul, but we need to see him continue in this vein throughout his innings. We don't want to see him, now that the power play is done, just go back into his shell and play conservatively like he can do and like he sometimes does later on in his innings once the power play is done as well. So it was then good to see him at least try and take on the spinner. And look, he got caught at long on, but he was trying to go for the six. And the timing wasn't great because Rohit Sharma had gone not too long before. But I think fair play. I'm happy
Yeah.
with that. The fact that he was still trying to score runs, still getting on with it.
Again, not making any predictions. Last episode, we've been talking about KL Rahul not being in the 11. No more predictions from my side.
Well, we
Ever.
did. Well, we said we wouldn't pick him in the 11. We
Yeah.
said that the selectors probably would, wouldn't they? And
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
didn't, then we were giving other options as to who we'd like to see in there, Rishabh Pant, etc. Maybe Surya Kumar Yadav promoted up the order. But it looks as though they're going to stick with KL Rahul. We've been saying that
Yeah.
all along. And, it's one match. It doesn't make KL Rahul all of a sudden the ideal T20 opener for India. We're not saying that. But
Yeah.
well, they're going to give him an
He can
opportunity.
do it. Yeah,
And
that's the thing. He can do
yeah,
it. So he should do it more consistently. Even in the IPL, I don't support the team he plays for, but just, as an Indian fan, you would want to see him just score those 12 balls, 50s. He has done it. So why not again?
absolutely. And then let's talk about, are we calling him Lord Voldemort now, or are we just sticking with he who shall not be named? Or let's go for it. The king coming in at
Yeah.
number 3. We'll stick with the king. It was great to see him play the way he did as well, particularly early on in, well, I say early on, I mean, he got his 50 off, what was it, 33, 34 balls. So
Yeah.
it was great to see him in that kind of form, and some of the shots he was playing, even early on in his innings, some of the pushes off the back foot. He didn't get the results all the time early on in his innings. Some of the balls were going to the fielders, but he was looking like a man on a mission, like he usually is against Pakistan. With an average of over 70 now against Pakistan, I believe it is, in T20 internationals. He loves playing against them, and he looked relaxed. He looked like a man who's enjoying his cricket for the first time in a long time, and the results were there for all to see. That was almost vintage Kohli yesterday. I say almost because I know there's more to come, but we're getting there, aren't we?
Yeah, he was coming down the track, and even against spin, he looked comfortable against spin. It's been his a big issue for him, but he was taking the singles against spin. His running was excellent. Kind of ironic that he got run out in the end, but his running was on point, and he was pulling the pacers. It was very good to see, and especially the best thing is his strike rate could have been higher if he hadn't batted with the tail. He was, in the end, he was denying the singles. He had a strike rate of 136, not very bad considering the others, the middle order struggled. But yeah, he was impressive, and it was just good to see, okay, Kohli is back.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, 60 or 44 in the end, so 136, as you say. But before he got out, played out those 3 dot balls, of course, didn't want to give the strike over to Bouvi, which
Yeah.
thought might be a mistake, really. Look, you can do it once, you can turn down the single, but to do it on 3 occasions in the last over, I mean, imagine those 3 or 4 runs that they could have got. That could have been the difference in the end.
Yeah.
17 win off the last over for Pakistan in the end. That's what it boiled down to. And then all of a sudden, if it's 11 to win off the final 6, that's huge pressure on the Pakistanis. And the way
Yeah.
Arshdeep Singh was bowling, not an easy task. So it could have made the difference. We're not saying that it's down to Kohli necessarily, but it's probably the middle order failure, isn't it, this time? Because
Yeah.
you look at the top three, and the top three all delivered. KL Rahul 28 from 20, Rohit Sharma 28 from 16, Kohli 60 from 44 in the end. And then you've got the failures, really. I mean, you don't like to call Suryakumar Yadav a failure, but 13 from 10, look,
Yeah.
it happens. He's not going to score runs every single time, and it was just one of those days. Rishabh Pant looked like a man all at sea, let's be honest. He never
Yeah.
really got going. The shot he got out to, that reverse sweep attempt from way outside the line, it was bowled way down the leg side. He had to drag it, and it was catching practice, really, in the end, for Asif Ali in that position. So he never got going. Hardik Pandya, 2-ball duck. Deepak Hooda played a couple of nice shots. That ramp over the keeper's
Yeah.
head in particular was brilliant, but 16 from 14 in the end, it's not really good enough at that stage. So you look at the middle order, and we focus so much on the top order for India, but it's the middle order who couldn't deliver in this pressure situation. Let's first talk about batting order. Were you happy with the batting order? Obviously, Surya has to come in at 4, but then Rishabh to come in ahead of Hardik, and Deepak Hooda pushed all the way down to number 7. Was that the right move, do you think?
I think first of all, it's like it was reminiscent of old times when the top order is doing well. India's batting first, struggling. They get a good score in the power play and then struggle towards the end. It's happened for the longest time, and Kohli is the one who stands out. So kind of reminiscent of old times, and I hope that doesn't happen in the World Cup, but somehow that's been a trend that catches up with India so often. And yesterday, I was very surprised Dinesh Karthik wasn't picked, especially, Huda didn't bowl a single ball yesterday. So why not have Dinesh Karthik, who has a strike rate of 180, 85 in T20Is in the death overs? Um, yeah, Pant was sent up to against left arm leg spin, left arm spinners, but he got out playing a terrible shot. Hardik Pandya, cricket is such a great leveler. Last week we were talking if he's the greatest T20I cricketer from India, and yesterday he just had a horrid day with in both departments. Huda, I really like Huda, but then if he's not bowling, if you're going in with 5 bowlers, then why don't you have a Dinesh Karthik there instead of Huda? So more than the batting
Yeah.
order, it was the selections which were just a little iffy, and yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the only reason you probably would play Hooda over
Yeah.
DK is to bowl. I mean, maybe they just wanted to cover themselves in that department. But
Yeah.
having said that, if your other bowlers are getting smacked around, then why not try Deepak Hooda?
Yeah.
It's very strange, and we'll get onto the captaincy in the field in just a moment. But look, Kohli run out in the last over, as we said. He played out 3 dot balls. First one was a wide down the leg side, which helped, and then what the fucker was going on in the field for Pakistan in those couple of deliveries
Yeah.
as well. Bonus runs to get
Yeah.
India up to 181, and 181 seemed about par. If they got anything less than 180, we would have been saying that's below par on that track, which looked really, really good. It was coming on nicely. There was good pace and carry. There's obviously the dew factor in the evening as well for the chasing side. So it seemed about par. which isn't great considering the start India got off to, and we talked about the middle order failings there. But some nice bonus runs towards the end, and that momentum sometimes can be key, can't it? At the end of an innings, you just have a couple of moments like that. Fakhar Zaman looked like he was, rabbit in headlights, really. I don't know if it was just the nerves of the situation. I mean, there was that catch earlier on, wasn't there? Which,
Yeah, where everyone was expecting it'll get dropped,
yeah,
and the
he did his
whole
best
scenes
to
were,
to
yeah,
to make that
yeah,
situation happen, but they held on in the end. There was almost a
yeah.
horrible collision. So there was that. There was a couple of other misfields as well, and then the two that basically gave India two welcome boundaries in that fine lover, which we didn't see where the hell they were going to come from. And they got up to a par total. I was thinking
Ravi
at the
Bishnoi with a strike rate of
yeah,
400. Yeah.
absolutely. Bishnoi, all his birthdays had come at once at that point. But
Yeah.
181, I was thinking at the halfway stage that's okay. I mean, if we bowl well, then that's defendable, but it's no more than par.
Yeah.
And if Pakistan get going, I mean, the best thing that India could have hoped for maybe was if Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan did their usual and sort of just knocked it round at a run a ball for
Yeah.
the first 6, 7 overs, and we didn't pick up that wicket, and then they get behind the run rate, and it's then a lot of catch up work to do for the middle order, and that could have proved to be too much pressure for them. As it was, look, we got Babar early again, which isn't a bad thing, but then the middle order did fire for them, and that was the difference, really, wasn't it? That middle order coming in and those middle overs of the innings
Mohammad
where
Nawaz, that gamble
absolutely
which Pakistan took with him paid off. So
just
good.
completely
Yeah.
took India apart. We'll get onto the Indian bowling in just a second. Before we do, just a reminder that 99.94 is a lot more than just this podcast. Jared Kimber, of course, has got Red Inca, which focuses on deep issues within the game. Double century, a look at the history of the game, and loads more offerings on the 99.94 network from other countries as well. We've got West Indies on 99.94, the best Caribbean coverage there. We've got England on 99.94. There's always something to talk about with English cricket, whether it be selection, whether it be Bazball or whatever they want to call it these days. We've got South Africa on 99.94 and Sri Lanka coming very soon as well. We're excited about that one as well. You can find them all on your podcast providers' apps, on the 99.94 app as well, and of course on YouTube. So do go and check the other selections out as well. And talking of selections, India's bowling then. So let's go with the lineup first. I was intrigued by the selection of Ravi Bishnoi. I've called for that on a few occasions on this
Yeah.
podcast previously. I just thought, particularly against Pakistan, if they are going to play that extra spinner, I would like to see Bishnoi in there just because Pakistan haven't seen him previously. And yes, Ashwin's got all the experience and he can bat and all those sorts of things, but Bishnoi's got a bit of X factor about him, hasn't he? He's a special talent, a special cricketer. Under 19 World Cup star for India, and he's risen pretty quickly through the ranks in his time. I was happy with that. It proved to be a good selection in the end. Let's talk Ravi Bishnoi. How good is this guy? How good was he yesterday?
He was he had a economy rate of 6.5 when the others were three of the premier bowlers, Bhuvneshwar, Hardik, Chahal, went for over 10 and over, which just shows how more than his skills, it's his temperament, how he first India Pakistan game nerves obviously get to him, but just the way he bowled, and he's already impressed in the under 19 World Cup, in the IPL, and he was just like, okay, I'm here, it's no big deal. Why are the others struggling? It just seemed like that. And even Ravi Shastri on commentary was just going on and on praising Ravi Bishnoi. So yeah, it was like one of the biggest positives. And uh, in the middle, I was like, at the start, I was probably like, Ashwin should have played. I know you've been a big fan of having Ravi Bishnoi play against Pakistan, but probably, considering it's a big game, probably have Ashwin there. He's not done very badly in T20Is, but overall, yeah, very happy with how Bishnoi went.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't argue with that. His strike rate with the
Yeah,
bat,
yeah.
which was so
Yeah.
tongue in cheek. But with the ball, look, 4 overs, 1 for 26. The one wicket was Babar Azam, so
Yeah.
it's it's a pretty good first outing against Pakistan on this stage as well in the Asia Cup. All that pressure coming in as well, and the fact that everybody else is getting hit for runs around him, that didn't seem to be putting him off as well. Bhuvi did what Bhuvi did early, what he does so well early on. Didn't get the very early breakthrough, but there was movement for him.
Wonderful. Yeah.
There was, things were happening, weren't they? And he looked threatening early on, and he always does. When the ball's swinging, there's no better man in world cricket to be bowling than Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. You could argue maybe Jimmy Anderson, but in this format, in white ball cricket, I'm talking about, Bhuvi's the man. When the ball's swinging, he will make it dance and sing and do everything. And they didn't look too comfortable with him early on. But coming back for his second and third spells, and that penultimate over, really, that's the one that made his figures look really bad. 10 and over in the end, 1 for 40 off his four. But it was just the manner in which he bowled and the manner in which Pakistan took him apart, really. I mean, look, you got to tip your hat to the likes of Mohammad Nawaz, 42 from 20. At that time in the innings as well is outstanding. I mean, quick mention for for Mohammad Rizwan as well at the top of the order. 71 from 51, striking at just shy of 140. We talk about his strike rate as well in relation to Babar at the top of the order, but he kind of did the job that was required of him. It was those two guys really with those contributions who took the game away from India ultimately. But even with those contributions, it could have been different if Bhuvi just managed to claw things back a little bit in that penultimate over to go for that many and then to leave 7 needed off the final over for Arshdeep to defend. It was a step too far. And it wasn't just Bhuvi. Let's talk about Hardik. Let's talk about Yuzi
And
Chahal as well.
one more thing with Bhuvi is like he kept committing the same mistakes in his last over. Like he kept bowling the slower ones at good length, which Asif Ali likes those good length deliveries, and he was just getting dispatched all over the ground. That dropped catch didn't really help. But yeah, overall, with someone of his experience, with no Bumrah there, knowing the others have been going for a lot of runs, 19 runs is a little too much.
Yeah. 19. So off that penultimate over, and there was that tactic as well, just trying to bowl wide of the off stump, those wide, slower deliveries. But he wasn't going for the Yorkers outside. It was those length deliveries still, which obviously one was signalled a wide. There were 6 wides in the innings as well, which we've seen worse, but some of them were just stupid, really. They were just like leg side deliveries where they were looking for that big magic swinging one early on, and then towards the back end of the innings, the batters were staying still in the crease. So it wasn't like they were trying to follow them. Just bowl it straight. I mean, the ball's not swinging, so you can't blame the swinging ball or anything like that. It was just a little bit of ill discipline early throughout the innings and towards the end of the innings in particular. And then Hardik Pandya, we know he can be expensive at times. He's got that tendency. Can be brilliant on his day, can bowl his 4 overs. He probably shouldn't have bowled the 4 overs. We should have seen some Deepak Hooda. Even Kohli, whatever, stick somebody else in for a bit. If this guy's getting hammered and going at 11s, Yuzi Chahal, of course, you're going to bowl him his 4 overs, but again, going at over 10. When you've got 3 bowlers really who've taken tap out of the 5, and you're only going in with 5 bowlers, then you're always going to be struggling in a game like this when you've got a par total on the board as well. It wasn't like they'd got 220 to defend and they could, be a little bit looser in terms of their discipline out in the field. They had to be on it. And the dropped catch. Let's talk about that then. I was watching with my 8-year-old who said she could have taken that, which she probably could have. She's not bad in the field, but it was such a simple catch. And he knew it was going to be such a simple chance. He was so casual. And look, we're not blaming him for the defeat or anything like that.
Yeah.
Nobody means to drop a catch, but he was so casual. Just look at the replays. if you haven't seen them back, everyone
And
listening.
that smile on his face, obviously it was an embarrassed smile,
Yes.
but and Rohit Sharma's reaction probably shouldn't have, a little harsh, that reaction, considering Arshdeep was to bowl the next over.
Yeah.
um yeah, but the trolling that followed after that was just, yeah, it's very
Well,
unfair for a
it
youngster
is.
like him going after his identity. It happened during India Pakistan last year when they went after Shami. And yeah, it's just, last episode we spoke about, being a battle, being a war, but it's just a sport. And many people don't really get that, because it's, I think probably because of the off-field politics and all between India Pakistan, what's happening is become even more, like it's a war and they are our enemies, and you have to win at all costs. So it was just,
It
yeah,
was.
it's
Look, no,
unfair.
nobody needs to
Yeah,
drop a catch, right?
yeah,
It's especially in that kind of situation. And then you get all these idiots who don't even know anything
yeah,
about cricket. Probably haven't watched a match since the 90s, unless it's India Pakistan, and it's all it's fixed, it's fixed. I
yeah,
mean, just get a life. Just stop watching cricket. Stop talking about. We don't want to hear your opinions. You know what I mean? You don't know anything about it. Why are you even watching it if you don't enjoy the sport? If you don't know anything about the sport, you probably don't know half the players. You just see this guy dropping a catch and that's it. You lay into him. You think he's taking. It's just stupid.
when he was the
One thing I will
most,
say to all these
yeah,
people talking about. I saw something floating around. The Indian players made a lot of money today because of all the fixing that they make a lot of money anyway. They could sit on their ass and not play for India, just play
yeah,
IPL and be millionaires. So they don't need the money. They don't need a few grand. It's all stupid, to be honest. I mean, yeah, we've seen
yeah,
fixing in the past, and people have been done for it. People have been banned, and it who knows if it still goes on. But to say that that was what happened yesterday is just ridiculous. It's disrespectful to Pakistan as well, and we don't want to do that. Look, we're not here to. We both want India to win everything, especially against Pakistan, and all
yeah.
that. But you got to respect the opposition. At the end of the
Especially
day, they played
Rizwan, like,
better, and that's
yeah,
it.
he was injured. He, in the middle, he landed that injury which he had
Yeah,
while he was wicket keeping, and then to come
absolutely.
back and just score, give Pakistan that platform. uh, it's a it's a sport after all, and you're just looking at his Arshdeep's catch. That catch wouldn't have won India the game. And even when he came back, he bowled that last over. You were He got India so close. Like, he just has seven to defend. Bowled so well in the death, and he ended as the most economical pacer across both sides.
But a long way actually in the
Yeah,
in terms of his Indian colleagues as well. Look, he went at
yeah,
7.04 and over. So
yeah,
to go at 7 and over in that kind of situation where Bhuvi is going at tens, where Hardik Pandya is
yeah.
going at tens, and where even Yuzi Chahal, such an
11.
experienced bowler
Yeah,
in this format, is going at nearly 11 and over. I mean, what a great effort from Arshdeep Singh.
yeah.
He wasn't getting as much swing as well when he was bowling early on as well, but just the accuracy that he had, and then to come back at the end and to get India so close, really. Seven to win off the final over in modern day cricket is, as we say in England, a piece of piss, which means
Yeah.
very easy. It should be done on 99 times out of 100, and unless something freaky happens, this is with wickets in hand, of course, which they had. Unless something freaky happens, you're not going to defend seven off the final six against a quality side like that. So to take it
Still,
so
he took the
close,
game to the, yeah. Still, he took the game to the fifth. Like, the match ended in 19.5
yep.
overs. Still, to take the game so close is, yeah, it's unfair. And there was like a lot of takes that India Pakistan matches should not happen, like, because of the attacks and the trolls on these players, which, yeah, it makes sense, because these players, they lose games. They don't purposely lose games, but they face defeats versus other countries also, but then people don't go after them to this extent
Yeah,
like they
but
do it during India
when they were playing
Pakistan.
every
Yeah,
year, when they were playing every
yeah,
year for that period between '04 and '07, okay, there wasn't social media, but there weren't burning of effigies and stuff like that if India lost a game. It's all right, we'll get them next time. That's part of
Yeah.
the problem. They don't, they hardly ever play each other.
Yeah.
I mean, this Asia Cup feels to me it's like the Asian Cricket Council's attempt at making a mini bilateral series, really, because look, all the hype is about India Pakistan, and it probably we understand why, but it is a little bit disrespectful to Sri Lanka and Afghanistan, who are the other two sides still left in the competition, and Bangladesh and Hong Kong, who aren't as well. It's not just about India Pakistan, but it kind of is to the media and the the
Hmm.
sensationalist media, shall we say, not people like us
Yeah.
maybe, but it's almost like another bilateral series. So there is another opportunity potentially to beat Pakistan in just under a week's time in the final if both sides are
Yeah.
able to get there and across the line. Of course, still some work to do in that respect, but if they did just play each other a little bit more often, it would still matter, it would still be huge, and they don't have to play each
Yeah.
other every year. But if they were to do what other sides do and tour each other's country every couple of years, every 3 4 years, whatever it was, just have one series every 2 years, either in Pakistan or in India, that would make a huge difference because there wouldn't be as much trolling because
And the thing is, it won't be India Pakistan just meet in these high pressure moments, the World Cups or the Asia Cup.
yeah.
So the pressure anyway is double than what it would be in a bilateral. And India Pakistan, the pressure is 100 times more. So yeah, if there were these bilaterals, people wouldn't really, they would care, but not to that extent where one defeat could decide India's path ahead. So yeah, I don't know if that's happening anytime soon, but like those bilaterals between India Pakistan,
No,
just
they're not.
yeah,
And they
they're
probably
not.
won't.
Yeah.
But we can only hope, right? Things
Yeah.
might change. And look, I don't follow Indian and Pakistani politics particularly closely. I like to think I know enough on the surface to kind of know what's
Yeah.
going on and these kind of things. It seems to me that as long as Imran Khan is out of power in Pakistan, the relationship. I mean, we've seen Modi tweeting a little bit more about Pakistan and the floods, and I don't know if that would have happened if Imran Khan was still in power. And obviously, we still wish everyone well in Pakistan regarding the
Yeah.
floods, and we hope that life can get back to normal for everybody affected. 33 million plus people as well. Devastating stuff over there. So our thoughts are with you on that one. It just seems that there's an opportunity, maybe, that the Indian government might not make amends completely with but just the relationship might there might be some sort of beginning in terms of better relations between the countries at that political level. And if that happens, then who knows? Well, what's the best way to get India and Pakistan,
Hmm.
that friendship
Probably a
going once again?
friendly.
It's cricket,
Yeah.
right? Is you come and tour here, we'll look after you, then we'll come there in a couple of years, you look after us. And
Yeah.
it worked in the early 2000s, big time. And then
Do you
obviously
see?
it
Yeah.
took a
Do you see
downward.
Pakistan players in the IPL anytime soon? It.
That's a long. I mean, that. Come on. What first things first, right? Let's
Yeah.
just play a bilateral series, and then we'll talk
Yeah.
about those sort of things. That's not going to happen before I think the
Shaheen
countries
and
arrange a
Bumrah
series. It
and
would be.
Archer in the same team.
You want? I mean, come on. The Mumbai Indians cannot be
Yeah.
allowed to do that. Have they got enough money? I mean, Shaheen's going to go for a lot of money if he's ever in the IPL.
Yeah.
He'd probably break all the records for overseas players, you'd think, right?
Yeah.
Archer, they got on the cheap because he was injured, obviously, Mumbai
Yeah.
Indians. Well, I say cheap, I mean, he's still, what, 8 crores or something. So, he's not cheap, but cheaper than he would have been, probably half price maybe.
Yeah.
So half price discount because he was injured. Who knows? Archer might not even be fit next year. Archer's having serious problems with his injuries at the moment, and we'd love to see him in the IPL. But yeah, Shaheen would be great. I mean, look, you've even got some of the other pay. If you want to go pace, Naseem Shah and Mohammad Hasnain, the way they've got the ability to bowl. They took a little bit of tap yesterday, but we saw what Naseem did in the first game as well, causing all those problems. So look, it would be great to see, but
Hmm.
let's not get carried away just yet.
Yeah.
Let's try and get some bilateral relations going first, and get the politicians talking, and let's hope that somewhere down the line, if that was to happen, then we'd get to a point where politics doesn't really have that much of a say
Yeah,
in whether
hoping.
the BCCI and the PCB want to play a series together. We can only wish. We can only wish. But I
Yeah.
think the more cricket they play, the less trolling there will be. And just before we move on to the next point, just a reminder that you can listen to all of these podcasts on the 99.94 app. If you love cricket, then do download that. It's free of charge. You can listen to our podcast and our commentary as well. We'll have more of that as well. We are the home of cricket audio online as well. We're adding new shows all the time, and the best way to follow us is via the app, but you can also download our podcasts via your usual podcast provider and watch on YouTube as well. Do subscribe, do comment, do get in touch with us on social media as well. It's at Nikesh Ragani and at swaris16. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing so far, and if there's anything you'd like to talk about as well, just let us know. So, India losing the game then. Let's talk about the fielding as well. I mean, we talked about the drop catch, Arshdeep Singh. The fielding as well. I mean, both sides didn't sort of cover themselves in glory. India were better than Pakistan, I felt, overall in the
Yeah.
field as well. But it's just those crucial things. I mean, in a game like this, we saw how Kohli was finding the gaps. I mean, it wasn't so much misfields, but it was finding the gaps and running those twos really hard. And he was brilliant at doing that, and just churning out the runs even when the boundaries dried up. He was still ticking the scoreboard over, still getting those twos and even those quick singles and things like that. India's fielding, what do you make of it overall?
There was a misfield by Kohli also, which was very surprising.
Yeah,
I was just like, I just remembered randomly that Jonty Rhodes has applied to be the India's fielding coach for the longest time. Like, I think every time he's applied, but he's not gotten in. BCCI have not accepted. Uh, India's fielding on days it's brilliant. On days it's you can do better, so much better. So it's just that consistency. Probably India needs a person like John D. Rhodes in the setup, because it's great when it's great, but when it's not, it's just Kohli's misfielding. Jadeja's absence was felt very dearly yesterday. So, and in crucial matches with 180 odd to defend, the middle order scored around 43 and 38 balls top. You just can't afford those fielding slips. So, yeah, it's just, should the BCCI get in someone like John D. Rhodes? He's been applying to be the fielding coach, or,
they should just get
it's
him an
just,
Indian
yeah.
citizenship and get him as a
Yeah.
12th man every
His
time and get
daughter's
him to
name is
field, right?
India. His daughter's name is India. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. He
Yeah.
loves India and he talks about it quite a lot, and obviously heavily involved in the IPL. And it might help. At that level, though,
Yeah.
I suppose it does, because there's a lot of technical stuff that players might not know and might not have been
Hmm.
coached, and there's little subtle things that he could bring in. It doesn't mean that he's going to overnight just make everyone into
Yeah.
another Jonty Rhodes, because a lot depends on fitness, and there's a lot of hard work to be put in to be a good fielder and a great fielder. But India have got some very good fielders. Obviously, Kohli with the rare misfield. Kohli's a brilliant fielder.
Yeah.
Hardik's a
Yeah.
brilliant. There's so many in the side who are just natural athletes and just are brilliant in the field. It wouldn't do you any harm to have a Jonty Rhodes in the setup, though, you'd think.
Yeah.
Trevor Penny's been involved previously. Now, for those who don't know about Trevor Penny, the cricketer, former Worcestershire player, Zimbabwean heritage, but spent his career playing in England. And the honestly, apart from Jonty Rhodes, maybe in that era, he was the best in the world. Just wasn't good enough as a batter to make the England side. And but as a coach and as a
Yeah.
fielding coach, he's been with England. He spent a bit of time with India as well. Works quite closely with Duncan Fletcher, so that's the reason why he has tended to follow him around wherever he's been. That seemed to help India at the time when Trevor Penny was around, and such a brilliant coach, outstanding fielder in his time as well, and on that same level as Jonty Rhodes as well. So either that, or if they don't accept Jonty Rhodes'
Yeah.
applications, time I don't know why they're not accepting his applications. Maybe they're just it's jobs for the boys, and they want somebody from within the Indian system to be involved, like they have been over the last few years. Um, Either that, or you just get Ravi Jadeja to whip these boys into
Yeah.
shape, right? Because he's the best in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
That could be
Yeah,
the
and
the
yeah,
option.
not
Um,
only on the field. Yeah, Jadeja's absence. We've all been saying Jadeja probably not the best player to be in the T20I 11. But then yesterday, when he's not there and he won't probably play the T20 World Cup also. There's so many selection headaches that are coming up with no Jadeja. Like, do you play Akshar Patel? It's a like for like replacement. But then Akshar is not really the number seven that you think he would be best at, eight, nine, maybe. Do you play Pant because of the left-handed? Because he's the left-hander, India number six, till number six, they don't have a left-hander. But then in T20Is, he's not really the best batter. Even yesterday, like they sent him up the order to navigate those slow left arm spinners. But then he played that trash shot, and it was just like even Rohit Sharma was giving him a hearing after his dismissal, which yeah. So what do you do with no Jadeja there now? And we've all, like yesterday also we saw Chehel was struggling. He was flighting the ball up. Hardik Pandya, you don't think he can be your fifth bowler regularly? Best probably sixth bowler. So what do you think India should do now? Like not only for the next match,
yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
going
he's not
forward,
been
T20 World
completely
Cup.
ruled out of the World Cup. Is looking
Assuming
unlikely.
he is, yeah, assuming he is
Yeah.
ruled out.
What Rahul Dravid has said is that look, it's still a fair way away, the T20 World
Yeah.
Cup. So we'll assess how bad it's a knee injury that he's got. So look, he could be out, and if he is out, then you're right. Akshar Patel is what on paper you would say is the like for like replacement, but he's not
Hmm.
really because he's a decent fielder. He's not nowhere near as good a fielder. No one is,
Yeah.
which is so there's never going to be a like for like in that department. But with the bat, is you make a great point. He's not your number say. He's not good enough to be a number seven in a World Cup in those important situations. So as a bowler, yeah, he can do a brilliant job. He's probably slightly better in this format than Jadeja is. But do you go down that route? Do you go down a Deepak Huda route? Those are the two options, I think, if you're looking to
Yeah.
replace Jadeja in the side with somebody who's an all-rounder who can bowl spin. Huda's more the batter and the very part-time bowler. But then if you've got Hardik in the
But then,
side, then you could split
yeah.
the overs. And look, it didn't happen yesterday for whatever reason.
Hmm.
I don't know if they didn't trust him or they just thought his style of bowling is not going to go down well. The way the Pakistanis were batting, who knows? They talk
But
about
then,
matchups and
yeah.
things, so it was
Yeah.
probably that. If Huda plays though, Huda has to bat up the order. I think he can't bat at
Yeah.
seven, so then you've got that dilemma. So it's a difficult one, really difficult. We could just do with
And
him
with
getting
that,
fit.
it's, yeah. And with that, it's, with Jadeja probably getting injured, Dinesh Karthik's, the dream of playing for India in the World Cup. Probably he'll be in the squad, but I don't know if he'll be in the 11 now with Jadeja not there. And yeah, it's very unfortunate for him also, because yesterday he was dropped. He wouldn't have been if Jadeja was fit. Pant came in because of that left-handed thing and all that. Oh, but yeah, it's very unfortunate for Dinesh Karthik. I hope he's not totally omitted. Uh, but
I mean, you
yeah.
could look if they've got the obsession about a left-hander, which I get it to an extent,
Yeah.
but then sometimes I've talked to professional cricketers, I've commentated with a lot of them over the last few years, and it's overrated, this whole thing about left-handers, and they talk about matchups, and you've got, oh no, you've got a left-arm orthodox spinner bowling to a left-handed batter. You can't do that. Why? I mean,
Yeah.
why not? Oh, the
Yeah.
ball's spinning into him. Who cares? If you're a good bowler, do you think Shane Warne didn't bowl to left-handers because the ball's spinning into them. I mean, what kind of rubbish is this?
Yeah.
It's got they're obsessed. There's too much this video analysis and all these 100 people you've got with laptops sitting in the dressing rooms. At the end of the day, if you're a class bowler, you bowl against anyone. And all right, you might not, if you're spinning the ball into the left-hander, you might not want to be bowling with a short leg side boundary. You just bowl from the other end. Just simple things you could do. So I think there's too much obsession about that sort of stuff. And even just having, oh, we must have a left-hander in the top order. If you've not got one that's good enough, then just go with your best players, I think. Just
Dinesh Karthik is so good at the death, against pace. So you're just like, on current form, probably Dinesh Karthik over Rishabh Pant. In your
or put
11,
Rishabh Pant at the top. Just do it, Rohit Sharma. If you're listening,
might not
do it.
happen. Yeah. Which realistically might not happen because KL Rahul was decent yesterday, and
it feels like he's cemented his place. I mean, it was he was only 20 odd, but it feels like that's it now.
Yeah.
He's answered that quite. But if he goes on and has another couple of bad games, who knows? There's not only Rishabh Pant, there's Ishan Kishan who could come in, but obviously if they're not using him in the playing 11 in this series, then that's not going to happen for the World Cup as well. It's too late, you feel, for that.
Yeah.
But if they were obsessed about this left hand, they needed more left-handers in the squad who've got that capability to bat at the top of the order and give one of them a go, because you assume they would have assumed Jadeja would have been playing in these games and would have been fit. So then you've got two left-handers and you're sorted. But if you're just going in with the assumption that we're going to have one left-hander in Jadeja if everyone's fit and Rishabh misses out and DK comes in, who cares? If you've got a left-hander down at number 7 or 6 or whatever it is, sometimes might come up to 5. I don't see the fascination with it. Just play your best players and get on with it. It doesn't matter if they're right hand, left hand, both hands, whatever. Just get on with it. You want to win games of cricket by playing your best players, right? And Rishabh Pant at the moment in that role, in the middle order in T20 cricket, isn't the man. And we've known that for quite some time. We've talked about his strike rate. If you're going to play him, he bats in the top 3. Otherwise, he doesn't play. Has to play in the power play. Opening.
And you can't leave up. You can't leave out a player like Dinesh Karthik. He was the KKR captain. I have a soft corner for him. And not only that, just he's been there around. He played India's first T20I in 2006, and just being there, not giving up on your dreams. And he's always he said his dream is to play for India in the T20 World Cup this year. It's so close. Just make it happen. He deserves it. He's been, just overshadowed by Dhoni and this and that.
Yeah,
so
he's had a
it's his time now. He's
had a great autumn to his career, and we hope that he can have that fairy tale ending with lifting the World Cup and going out on a high in terms of his international career. At least he's playing brilliantly, better than he ever has in that role, finishing the innings. He's a nice guy, isn't he? He's got a great beard. He's very softly spoken. He's got a great shirt selection.
Fashion sense with shorts,
Yeah. He's, girls, you'd love to take a boy like Dinesh home to meet your mum and dad. I mean, you can't now, unfortunately, but, he's that kind of guy, right? He's just a nice guy. And he ticks a lot of boxes and he's playing well, and you just want to see him do well.
And when he speaks, he's just, you want to listen to what he's speaking. So much of maturity and, just that calmness which has come into his game of late over the last 2 years. Is just, he's very clear in what he can do and what he can't do, which, is just very admirable. And I hope he gets to play and he has a great World Cup.
Well, we'll see if he's in the side for the next game. Game's coming thick and fast now, and this is a massive game now. India versus Sri Lanka on Tuesday. It's just huge.
One question, Sri Lanka have 3 left-handers. Do you think Ashwin coming in, or do you think it's just stick with Chahal and Bishnoi? Chahal can be expensive when he's had those bad days. He will give more than 40 on in his bad days. So, do you think Ashwin comes in or they stick with
They
Chahal?
could go down that route, but if you're going to bowl
Yeah.
Chahal and Bishnoi, they'll bowl googlies to the left-handers. And
Yeah.
we've seen it in T20 cricket around the world, even in the 100 in England. You get a quality leggy coming in, they won't bowl any leggies to the left-handers. It'll all be googlies. So
Yeah.
you'd have to back them to be good enough to be able to do that. And they are good enough, and they should be able to do that. And then when the right-handers come on, then you stick to the leg spin or whatever you want to do. I just think go with your best side. And the way Bishnoi bowled, he can't be dropped. And
Yeah.
Chahal won't be dropped because he's the number one choice for spinner going into that World Cup. So if they are going to play just one spinner, it will be Chahal. He's the man in possession. So I think you've got to stick with that. And you've got to bowl Huda, maybe. Maybe just give Hardik an over or two.
Yeah.
Save him, let him rest up, unless you really need him and Huda's getting smashed. Bowl Huda, why not? Bowl Huda
Yeah.
2-3
Yeah.
overs, see how that goes. Give him an opportunity and might do well against the lefties. Hopefully that happens, but the pressure going into that game now, Sri Lanka obviously beating Bangladesh to get into this stage of the competition, having both sides lost to Afghanistan, which was brilliant for Afghanistan. But India with two tough games now. Pakistan have got that one win on the board, which is really, really important. India face Sri Lanka on Tuesday, Afghanistan on Thursday, and we expect India to win both those games, but it
But
just
we expected India to win against Pakistan.
Yeah.
I expected India to win against Pakistan too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And look, got a good recent record against Sri Lanka as well
Yeah.
in this format, but it's not a foregone conclusion at all, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll
Especially against Afghanistan, it'll be like, I wouldn't say that the advantage is not with India, but then in T20Is, you never know, especially, with Rashid Khan there and all those.
Well, you got Rashid Khan, you got Naveen
yeah.
ul Haq, who's been in
Yeah.
brilliant T20 form this year, even in the Blast in England. He was playing for Leicestershire, my side, and top wicket taker in the competition in there. And, international level, he just never seems to let the side down. So they've Rashid as well. They've got at the top of the order, they've got some power there with Gurbaz and all those boys as well. So it's going to be not straightforward. And if they get going, who knows what they could do.
Yeah.
But first, it's Sri Lanka. And we look forward to that game. And once that game is done, we'll be here talking about it and hopefully talking about an India victory. But that's about all we've got time for on this episode. A little bit longer than usual, but always lots to talk about when it's India-Pakistan. So thanks for staying with us. Thanks for joining us. And do join us again soon.